afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us, either for yet another microlearning, or if this is your first microlearning, thank you for that as well. I'm Lisa Zangari, Vice President at the Leadership Louisville Center, where our purpose is to inspire and equip leaders to be better and to do better. We've been doing this work for over 40 years here in the Louisville community and sometimes more regionally. And we really think about this work as growing the confidence and the connections and, quite honestly, the courage of those that we serve, of leaders, whether it's leader in a workplace or leaders in our community. And right now, I think that courage piece and also connection is very much needed now, almost more than ever. And normally that's sort of just a phrase that you say, but given these very unique times, the first time any of us are facing things like a global pandemic, we need that courage, and gosh, we need those connections. We need to keep our confidence going. And when I think of confidence and courage, Sheri Riley is certainly a name that comes to mind. And I'm so thankful that Victoria Russell from Papa John's introduced us to you, Sheri. And I just want to tell the folks here today a little bit about you. So Sheri is, first and foremost, a wife, a mother, and a daughter. And then she also spends her time as an entrepreneur, an empowerment speaker. She is a high-performance life coach. Man, I wish I had one of those right now, Sheri. And an award-winning author. Now, we know this isn't easy, but she has figured out how to make all of that, doing all of that spectacularly simple. Now, also, for those of you that like fun facts and trivia, Sheri is a graduate of the University of Louisville. If you didn't see her flashing her L's earlier, she is a very proud Cards fan, but also she has stayed very involved. She is on the board of directors at University of Louisville Alumni Association, and she was also an esteemed Woodford Porter Scholar while at Leadership Louisville, that is where I work, while at University of Louisville. So today, Sheri is going to empower us, give us that confidence, give us that courage with her principles of exponential living, which serve as the guide on how to stop spending 100% of your time on just 10% of who you are. We will be recording this session, and we will take Q&A at the end. And with that, I give you Sheri Riley.
Hello, and I actually have to say, Letty, JMT DNA, yes. Welcome, everybody. I am so excited. Thank you. First of all, thank you for joining, because the reality is there's so many other things that you could be doing with this hour. So I appreciate you taking this time with us, with me, with Leadership Louisville. In the next 60 minutes, we are going to really spend time learning the 5 keys to inner peace and increase productivity. But I want you showed up. So what I want you to really do is commit this hour to you. Get off your social media, get off your email, and I want you to commit this time to yourself. I want you to be present. And I'm going to talk about the importance of that a little later. I also want you to have something to take notes, because the information I'm going to share, I know the impact. Right? And these words I've put together, I've spent a lot of time doing it. But the most important voice that you need to listen to during our time together is the voice within you. So in addition to the notes of what I'm going to give in my slides, be in tune with that voice, your inner voice, and make sure you note and write down those things that you hear. So, because here's the most important thing. I came with one mission and one commitment. I want to 100% change your mindset and 100% transform and shift your paradigm. That is my ultimate goal. That is my ultimate goal. Because the reality is, I am what I always tell people, I'm my first and most important client. Like, I know what it's like to live with stress, anxiety, to be overwhelmed, to be filled with uncertainty. And these 5 keys of inner peace and increased productivity is what I live by, and it's what I work with my clients on. So I want you to just take a moment, and I want everybody to just close your eyes. Just close your eyes. And I want you to really envision Like, what would your life look like if you genuinely learned how to live in your power? What would it feel like to be consumed with peace and productivity in every area of your life? To really take control of your schedule, to be proactive and not reactive. What would it feel like to be able to walk into meetings via Zoom in the day of COVID, but to walk into meetings, to show up in your most confident and most powerful self? What would that feel like? Because what I know for sure is there's a principle I live by, and I've lived by it for as long as I know, and that is personal development fuels our professional growth. Personal development fuels our professional growth. And I just want to thank Leadership Louisville. I want to thank Lisa. I want to thank Zuri and the entire team. I want to thank Victoria Russell at Papa John's for connecting us, because I love the fact that Leadership Louisville understands the power and the necessity of personal development. All of us professionally, we are consumed with training, right? We understand the power of making sure that we get information and we're trained in our respective areas. We stay on top of innovation. We make sure that we understand the value of diversity, and all of that is critical. But there's really sometimes in our journey that we realize that personal development is so key, but it is a daily commitment. Personal development, here's the challenge that I have with many of us, is we feel like that if we're doing what we've got to do professionally, then we just grow personally. And they're not synced like that. We have to make the same commitment to personal development that we make professional growth. So my dear friend, and that's why I had to shout out Letty with JMT, because my dear friend and mentor, John Maxwell. John is the #1 leadership expert in the world, and that's pretty universal, right? The #1 leadership expert in the world. And he's written over 100 books, sold over 30 million copies of leadership books. And the thing that I love about John is he understands the value and importance of personal development. Last year, 2019, he released his New York Times bestseller, Leadership, and he featured an excerpt from my book, Exponential Living, in that New York Times bestseller. And this year, 2020, he actually interviewed me for his book, The Leader's Greatest Return, again, focusing on that power of personal. Because what John Maxwell, the #1 leadership expert in the world, understands is that personal development is leadership. Personal development is, I need you guys to write that down. And wherever you're taking notes, personal development is leadership. So Lisa, she's already kind of started us down memory lane. And I want to just share a little bit with you guys. Back in the 90s, I was responsible for the marketing of some of the biggest artists in the world, Toni Braxton, TLC, and also this unknown teenager. Well, one day, this kid walks into my office and he breaks down and he's crying. He says, "Sheri, no one at this record label believes in me because of this stupid acne, and my voice is changing." And the reality is, guys, he was right. So for the next couple of years, me, him, and his mom led the charge to break him as an artist. And some 20 years later, that unknown teenager is now the global superstar, Usher. Now, right before we released his breakout record, "You Make Me Want to Leave the One I'm With," and started, okay, for those of you all who know that song, what's the next thing we say? "You make me want to leave the one I'm with and start anew." Yeah, that song. I know some of you are singing. In the chat box, if you know that song, say, "That's my song. That's my song. That's my song." Yeah, that right there. Yeah. Tina's like, yeah. Courtney says, "Start a relationship with you." Yeah, yeah, that right there, that song. Well, right before we released that breakout record, I realized that it was time for me to resign and start my own company. But I also knew that I wasn't going to be able to work with Usher. I knew that he needed my friendship more than he would ever need my business expertise. But I also knew that this was going to be a really tough conversation to have with this teenager, because again, so many record executives had turned their backs on him or didn't believe in him. So as we went down, and down there was a lobby in my office, and him and I went and we sat in this lobby area, and I held his hand and I shared with him, and I said, Usher, you know, I'm not going to be able to work with you any longer. I'm going to start my business, and I'm going to leave LaFace and start my business. And he jumps up, yes, Sheri, that's it. Now you can work with me exclusively. Like, you didn't hear anything I said, huh? Like, no, I can't work with you. Guys, how many of you have ever had to make a decision that you knew was going to cost you money, career advancement, and opportunity? If anyone's had to do that, say me. You knew that this decision was going to cost you money, career advancement, and opportunity. Yeah, me, yeah. Guys, let me tell you, when I made that decision, people thought I was crazy. And when I say people, I mean me. Because the reality is I was passing up hundreds of thousands, I mean, at this point, millions of dollars. But that one right decision allowed Usher and I to form a bond of a brother and a sister. But more importantly, it allowed me to get crystal clear with that I am called to be an empowerment speaker, high performance life coach, and author. See, every month in O magazine, that great and wise philosopher, Oprah, shares what she knows for sure. And what I know for sure, guys, and it's even more clear in 2020, is that we have to decide, what are you going to give up to go up? What are you going to give up to go up? Because if you truly want to live in your power, if you truly want to walk into that place of inner peace and increased productivity, there's some real mindsets. There's some real paradigms. There's some ideas. There's some people. There's some places that you're going to have to commit to letting go of so that you can move to that next level. See, in I hate to even admit it, but it's been about 5 years now. My high school, 30-year high school reunion. And again, as Lisa shared, I'm from Richmond, Kentucky, right outside of Lexington. I went to Model High School, which is a part of EKU. I don't have to explain that because I'm talking to hometown people here in Louisville. It was our 30-year high school reunion. So this is us. That's me up in the corner. This is us. This is us 30 years later. And I got to admit, Madison Central, go Jeff. I got to admit, guys, that I honestly had some trepidation about this 30-year high school reunion. I mean, the reality is, outside of a few connections on Facebook, we hadn't really stayed connected. And so I'm getting dressed. And as I'm getting dressed, I'm starting to really think about like who I was at 18. And I'm thinking back 18, right? Who I was at 18. And so I'm getting dressed and I'm thinking about all the dreams that I had when I was 18. I wanted to work in the music industry. Check. You know, I wanted to be able to buy my mother a home. I did that by the age of 27. I thought about all the times that life had kicked me in the face and I got back up. You know, I'm thinking about all these things and you know, I'm starting to feel a little good. You know, I'm starting to hear a little Jay-Z in my head, you know, allow me to reintroduce myself, right? I'm starting to feel, let me tell y'all a secret. There's a freedom you get dancing naked in the mirror. I'm feeling pretty good, you know, and I'm thinking back to this, you know, who I was at 18. And as I continue to think about, you know, who I was at 18 and who I was at 48, And to be honest, you guys, I started to identify this disconnect as I really looked at who I was at 18 and now looking at where I was and who I was at 48. And I started to really look at this disconnect. There was this gap there. And as I really, in that mirror, again, got honest with myself, I really began to look at what this gap was. And when I looked at it, I had to be honest. The truth was, I wasn't confident. I wasn't confident. Now, initially, I'm like, Sheri, what do you mean? How could you not be confident? Did you not hear all the things you've accomplished? Like, how could you not be confident? And what I realized is that what's going on here? I'm just kind of processing it. So as I began to really dive into this gap, as I really began to look at this gap between this confidence and how could I not be confident, I began to understand, guys, I was driven. I wasn't confident. I was driven. I wasn't confident. I thought they were one and the same. But as I began to really dissect this gap, I realized they weren't. And so I started asking my clients. Again, I work with high performers like those of you on this Zoom right now. And I started asking, are you confident or are you driven? And immediately my clients was like, oh, I'm And I started getting the same response that my clients, my colleagues, my friends, they were driven, but they weren't confident. And what I realized is drive is what pushes us to achieve. Confidence, that's who we are when we get there. Think about that person, and don't tell on them in the chat box, but think about that person that's sitting on your team or the leader in your company or the vice president, and you can see right through that they're in the title, they have the seat, but they're not confident. There's this gap between our drive and our confidence. Drive is our protective strength. Confidence is our vulnerable strength. And as I began to really look at this gap between my drive and my confidence, I began to realize I needed both. I needed drive and confidence to stay together. And what I realized is that in order to bridge this gap, I had to become a disruptor in my own life. And that's absolutely what I need you guys to do. You have to become a disruptor in your own life. And what for me, one of the key disruptors is when I decided to stop spending 100% of my time on 10% of who I was. And what I defined that to be is exponential living. And it's a lifestyle of pursuing peace, choosing clarity, and living courageously. And exponential living is these 9 principles. These 9 principles that I feature and I focus on in my book, Exponential Living. And thank you for those who have already read it and are reading it for a second and third time. And so as I really look at the principles of exponential living with the time that we have today, I want to focus on the very first principle, live in your power. Yes, Leadership Louisville, I take Muhammad Ali with me everywhere. He is always my representation of living in your power. And so when we really look at the 5 keys, the very first key is perspective. Perspective. What is your vision? What is your vision? What do you see? Are you moving so fast in your life that you're just reactive to everything and you're not proactive, personally or professionally? How many of you really take time to get crystal clear on your vision for your life? And to be honest with you, perspective, the first key, is the hardest one, because this is the one where you really have to commit to you. Also, my mentor and friend Les Brown says that you can't see yourself when you're in the picture frame. That's why when Lisa referenced, needing a life coach, all of us do. I have a spiritual coach, a life coach, a business coach. I have accountability circles. I have vision partners, because it's so hard to get clear on your own vision when you are the one in the picture frame. So the first key to inner peace and increased productivity is our perspective. And I love what Andy Stanley says. Many people die after living a long life with their dreams never fulfilled because they don't have vision to guide them through the process. Vision is born in the soul of a person who is consumed with the tension between what is and what could be. What is your perspective? The second key to living in your power, the second key is ownership. Ownership. What are you focused on? What are you focused on? I in December 2014, I did the most courageous thing I've ever done in my life. Everybody doesn't have to do this, but I did this. In December of 2014, I removed 80% of everything from my to-do list. It was out of desperation, but I didn't realize at the time it was a necessity because up until that point, I had been working 7 years to write a book proposal. Now, let me explain. For anyone who wants to get a publishing deal, the book proposal is the outline. Now, it's an in-depth outline. For all intents and purposes, it is an outline that you use to get your agents, and then those agents use it to get your publishing deal. So I had spent 7 years, basically, guys, on an outline, right? December 2014, I cleared 80% of everything off my to-do list, and I left 3 things. Secure a publishing deal, increase my speaking engagements, and lose 25 pounds. That's it. If it didn't directly or indirectly affect those 3 things, I removed them from my to-do list. That was the second week of December. January 7th of 2015, 4 weeks later, I sent my revised, for the umpteenth time, book proposal to my agents. They called me within 15 minutes and said, "Oh my God, Sheri, you found your voice." The second week of February, we were either on a conference call or meeting in person with 4 publishers that wanted my book deal. And I ended up signing with Penguin Random House. Guys, listen to the timeline. What had been taking me 7 years to do, I completed in 8 weeks. Why? Because I took ownership and I decided what I was going to focus on. And when I removed those 80% of everything from my to-do list and left those 3 things, let me tell you where I got even more clear and more clarity. A third of the 80% of those things that I took off my to-do list, I don't even remember what they were. Hear me. They were weighing on me so much. Come on, our to-do list does what? Every day it just weighs us down because no matter how much you do, that to-do list just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And it's just a habit, guys. That's one of the things that I love working with my clients on and people that join my Live in Your Power program is how to really get clear on what goes on your to-do list. It shouldn't just be a dumping ground because a third of that 80%, I don't even remember what it was. The other third of that to-do list that I removed, literally somebody else should have been doing. Somebody else should have been doing it. Let me just speak to the women that are part of today's session. Ladies, here's what I need you to do. I need you to let your husbands fold those towels. Let your spouse fold those towels. Let your children do some of that. They need to wash those dishes. There's some things that at your office that other people should be doing. Guys, there's some things that other people need to be doing that you've put on your to-do list. And the other third of what I realized was it was chronologically out of order. There was things on my to-do list that were just out of order. There was things in my to-do list that I was putting on there in December that honestly wasn't supposed to be there until May. Listen to my timeline with my book proposal. When I got clear and decided this is what I'm going to take ownership of, this is what I'm going to focus on, I got that book proposal done. I got that book deal in February. So then what did I do next? I went and got the next thing that I wanted to do, and I put it on my to-do list. Guys, that's the power of ownership, is when we really understand, like Brene Brown says, that you're either going to walk inside your story and own it, or you're going to stand outside your story and hustle for your worthiness. Guys, ownership. What is authentically true to you that you've got to focus on. The third key to living in your power is wisdom. What is your plan? What are the 3 most important steps that you need to now do? And here's the thing, when you get crystal clear on the 3 most important next steps, that's when you're able to differentiate when an opportunity is actually a distraction. When an opportunity is a distraction. Let me share with you how I came to this revelation. Again, I'm a founding partner of the John Maxwell team. John Maxwell was starting a live simulcast. I had the only Atlanta proper location. So this is a great opportunity. It's Sheri Riley and John Maxwell co-billing. I get to keep all the money from everything that I make from this opportunity. This is a phenomenal opportunity. That was a distraction. Think about it. What were my 3 things? Secure a publishing deal, increase my speaking engagements, and lose 25 pounds. So for a year, I was going to be talking and promoting and marketing John Maxwell as a speaker, not Sheri Riley. For a year, I was going to be promoting and talking to corporations and organizations like Leadership Louisville about being a part of, partnering and sponsoring this event, John Maxwell's event. So this great opportunity was a distraction. But guys, the only way that I could get that clear is because I knew what my vision was. I knew what I was taking ownership of, which allowed me to get crystal clear on what my steps were, which allowed me to be able to identify when an opportunity is a distraction. Y'all see how these work together? You see how your perspective, your ownership, and your wisdom work together? If you see that, say, I get it. I get it. Just say, I get it in the chat box. Because the only way you can really determine if an opportunity is a distraction is you got to get clear your perspective, what you take ownership of, and then, and this is the most important key, the 4th key is the engagement. What adjustments do you need to make in order to truly implement? See, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and my daughter, she at age 6, first grade, she started playing lacrosse. And so her very first lacrosse game was about 40 minutes away. It was a Saturday, early Saturday morning, about 40 minutes away. And so we get up, and one of my good girlfriends called me. I hadn't talked to her for a while. So she called me, and I was like, I'll just talk to her when I get to the field. So we get to the field. It's a football field, and my daughter is out playing. I'm sitting in the stands. Now, I had my iPhone in my lap, and I still had the corded earbuds. I got my earbuds in, iPhone is in my lap. I'm watching the game. Like, I see everything that happens. I watch her for I talked to my girlfriend for about maybe a quarter and a half. I watched the whole game. My daughter wins her first ever lacrosse game. Right? I'm so excited. Now, I'm competitive. My daughter's competitive. So I know she's excited. My daughter is also very affectionate. She's 13, 5'4", still cuddles in my lap, right? So I know she's going to run and jump in my arms so we can celebrate. So I'm bracing myself. She's walking towards me after the game. I'm bracing myself because she's going to jump in my arms. She walks up to me, stops in front of me, drops her head and says, "Mommy, I can't believe you were on the phone for my first ever lacrosse game." And she walks to go be with her team. My ego is like, are you kidding me, little girl? My ego is like, I just drove 40 minutes to bring your little butt to this game. My ego is like, there's 3 parents in the stands. I'm one of them. My ego is like, all right, coach, come on. Finish up with the team, because that little one, I need her back over here with me. So the coach finishes. My daughter's walking over to me. My ego is braced and ready to go in. And when she gets to me, I pick her up and I hug her so tightly. And I say to her, "Baby, I am sorry. And I will never be on the phone again when there is something important to you." Because what my daughter taught taught me in that moment is that my presence was not enough. I needed to be present. My presence was not enough. Your presence is not enough. You have to be present. That's why I asked you, get off social media. Stop checking email. You have got to be present in every moment, because multitasking is a lie. I have sit and been in presentations with a neuroscientist at Stanford. It is proven the brain cannot function or cannot take in more than one thing at a time. Now, the brain is so powerful that it moves faster than you can blink your eyelashes. So all the brain is doing is this. So you're really not focusing on anything. So what adjustments do you need to make so that you can get present and engage, so that you can truly implement at the highest level of peace and productivity? And then the last key is the reward. And the only way you get to the reward is that you stay consistent. What are the triggers that are keeping you from being consistent? Guys, I want to make sure that, again, I'm all about transformation. And I know we've got a short window of time today. So I want to give you, anyone who wants this presentation, it's an audio version of it when I spoke at Steve Harvey's Act Like a Success. Text my name, SHERI, to the number on the screen, 770-637-0081. 770-637-0081. What you're going to do is you're going to get prompted when you text my name, Sheri. You're going to get prompted for your name and then another prompt for your email address. And what you then will get is an email where I go through those 5 keys: perspective, ownership, wisdom, engagement, and reward. And you'll actually have that. I want to offer that to everyone here at Leadership Louisville. So guys, as we begin to wrap, if you don't remember anything else I say today, the most important thing I'm going to share with you now is that the key to living in your power is we have to broaden our definition of success, especially here in America. Our definition of success has narrowed down to how many zeros are in our account or how many commas are between those zeros. Our definition of success has narrowed down to what title we have or what letters we have in front of our name or after our name. Guys, we have to broaden our definition of success. My definition of success is broad enough to include 15 years of marriage. It's broad enough to include those times I get to spend volunteering at my daughter's school, watching her lacrosse games. It's broad enough to include watching Blue Bloods with my mother on Friday nights because that's what she loves. It's broad enough to include 8 hours of sleep consistently. Let me tell you, I'm that fool they used to say that I'm going to sleep when I die, right? I'm that fool. Even our computers and our phones have to reboot to properly function. Guys, we have to broaden our definition of success. And I love what Reese Witherspoon says. Reese Witherspoon says that many people worry so much about managing their career, but rarely spend half that much energy managing their lives. I want my life, not just my job, to be the best it can be. Yes, that's why personal development is so critical. So has this been helpful? I know I saw a couple people. Who was that said in the chat box they didn't know when they signed up for this, but it's exactly what they needed? Yeah, if this has been helpful, say yes. Yes, this has been helpful. If this has been helpful, yes, a great discussion. Yes, this is the best part. So we're going to open up so that we can do our Q&A. And guys, this is when I really, I'm here. I've given you information and revelation for those of you that are going to join the program. We are going to get transformation, but the most important part is I want you to ask your questions so that I can make sure that I'm of service to you right now as well. So Lisa and Zuri, do we want to look at hands in the video, or how do you guys want to open up for the questions?
So we can do both. We can, if you close your slide deck out, we can go ahead and see everyone. And if not, we can go ahead and field questions in the chat box.
You guys tell me what's best.
We
Close
can
it out.
go to gallery view so that you can see everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But we already do have a question that's come through. Would you like me to share it with you?
Yes, please.
So this is from Kate. I'm interested in the idea of accountability circles. Can you talk about building those?
Absolutely. I have several that serve different purposes. So there's three things that are very important in accountability circles. One, you want to make sure that you identify someone who, and I know this sounds simple, but it's so powerful, that generally has your best interests at heart, right? Because everybody that loves you and likes you is not cheering for you and applauding you. So you want to make sure that they are aligned with what it is that you want to accomplish. You want to make sure that they're not just committed to being the devil's advocate, meaning no matter what your ideas are, they're just, well, can I play devil's advocate for a minute? You don't need the devil's advocate. You need someone that will pressure you, that will press you, that will challenge you, but you don't need someone that's going to come against what you're trying to do. Also, you want to make sure that they are like-minded, meaning they may not see or understand the vision, but they're like-minded in their understanding that they don't have to see it for them to support you in accomplishing it. That's very important. Also, there's different types of vision circles. So when I was writing my book, when I needed to get clear on what exponential living was, I had one person and we would meet once from 7 to 8 a.m. one day a week, and I would just talk through what I was doing. And she would just continue to just ask me questions, press me, help me, and just serve as a vision partner that way. Now I actually have a vision partner of 2 entrepreneurs. We have like-minded businesses, and what we do is we get on quarterly. We tell each other what our goals are, what our objectives are, what our dreams are, what our challenges are, and then we strategize. And then each of us add to. So if I say, I want to do a talk with Leadership Louisville, then they're going to say, well, what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to serve? How do you want to serve them? What is it that they need in this hour? So they're going to help me form the delivery and the deliverable. So vision partner, you want to make sure that you're like-minded. You want to make sure that they can share and appreciate your vision. And you want to make sure that they're going to hold you accountable to what it is that you want to accomplish. So I want to see who asked that question. I want to make sure. Kate. Thank you, Kate, for that question. Thank you. I see you. Thank you, Kate.
So there are 2 other, well, actually now about 4 or 5 good, really great ones here. Someone is asking, can you provide some tips or ways to identify an opportunity that is a distraction, like the example that you gave?
Yes, and so that we do dive deep into that in the Living Your Power program, because it's that one-on-one time in the live training on the 15th and the 28th that allow us to really go into your opportunity to identify if it's a distraction, because that really is a personalized experience. But from a broad standpoint, when you get clear on what is most important, what are those 3 things you're focused on? So remember, for me, it was increasing my speaking engagements, getting a publishing deal, and losing 25 pounds. So when you get clear on those 3 things, and that's where the real work comes in, is getting clear on those 3 things, right? That's the real work. When you get clear on those 3 things, then on it, to be very transparent, it gets even more clear to identify when an opportunity is a distraction, because it doesn't directly move those 3 things forward. But here's the other key. An opportunity may be a distraction today, but it may be something that you put on your list. Remember, it's all about also the timeline of it all. This may be an opportunity that's chronologically not aligned for right now. And it's something you want to put on your list for later. So when you go through that program of Living Your Power, you get more in tune with how to identify an opportunity versus a distraction. But the key is to make sure you're aligned with your 3 things, that you're always tracking opportunities against those 3 things, and then determining if this is fully a distraction or if it's a distraction right now, and it's something that I need to just look at later.
Thank you. So another question from Nicole: when vision setting, how do you focus on the ideal without getting stuck on the deficits and the barriers?
Yes. So what I talk about, and especially in my book, Exponential Living, is that we need to dream more. Not strategize, not think, but actually dream. Really close our eyes and dream. But we have to allocate time, right, to just spend that time dreaming. So when I think about, or when I do visioning, I equate it to dreaming, where all I'm focused on is the what. What do I want? Not the how. How do I do it? So I just eliminate the idea of the how, and I just focus on the what. What do I want? I want to be the #1 speaker in the world. That's what I want. What do I want? I want people around the world to say that my words impacted them for real transformation. What do I, now, if I focused on the how, I would go, I want to be the #1 speaker in the world. Oh, and I would get stopped right there because, well, how do I do that? Well, how do I compete against John Maxwell? Well, what do I, so immediately I deflate the vision. I deflate the vision. So what I do is I set aside time to just dream. And in that 30-minute window, whether it's in the morning, at night, I completely get rid of any structure, any hows. I let it go. And well, let me tell you, you have to protect the time, because your mind is going to start wanting to go, but you don't have this, and you don't have that, and eliminate that. Give yourself the freedom to just dream. Now, write that stuff down, capture it. Give yourself, that's the vision, capture it. Now, you still got to take it through that process. Where does it fit? Is that a today? Is that a tomorrow? Is that something I put on my vision board that I'm going to work towards? So the big key, though, is allowing yourself and allocating the time. Sunday afternoon from 4 to 4:15. Saturday morning while you're on the treadmill. I do my best dreaming in the shower. I do my best visioning in the shower. Driving in the car, turn the radio off. Identify that window of time that you can just allow yourself to vision and ask yourself, what do I want, with no parameters.
Do we have time for one more?
Yes. If I'm short in my answer, we got time for 2 more, so I'm going to be short.
From Matisa, what is the thing you discovered about yourself once you left your job?
The thing that I discovered about myself when I left LaFace Records is that that was only one of my dreams, and that I had accomplished that dream, and that it was time for me now to pursue the next dream. And I'm tearing up because honestly, I realized that after the fact. And I work with so many of my clients that they're miserable on Sunday and Monday. They wake up miserable. But what we uncover in our time working together is because they're still working in a dream that they've already fulfilled, and they've been there 5, 10, 15 years longer than they were supposed to be, because they haven't allowed themselves to accept, I accomplished that dream, and now I'm going to go and pursue the next dream. So my #1 takeaway when I resigned from LaFace Records is I had accomplished one of my dreams, and it was okay to now pursue the next dream, and that was to be an entrepreneur.
Well, Kareen, and you said there was time for a second, Kareen actually had a question that's linked to that somewhat, because she was saying, so, if you've had a vision and you've accomplished most of the list that is linked to that vision, how do you develop a new vision for the next half of your life? And it sounds like your approach is basically doing just that.
Yeah, I in with the Living Your Power program, with my book, Exponential Living, I share that I've gone through 2 major transitions in my life. And there's 4 pain points that we go through, sometimes individually, sometimes collectively. And one of those pain points is now what, right? Like, I've accomplished what I want to accomplish. I don't necessarily, I'm done, like I did it. I want to move, like, now what, you know? Another pain point is what's next, right? So you're at this place, you don't really like want to, I'm sorry, I got them backward. What's next? It's like I've accomplished the goal and now I want to do that next thing. I'm finished. I left LaFace. I want to do the next thing. Now what is, I don't want to leave what I'm doing, but I want to create bandwidth. I want to create margin in my life to do more. Kind of what I shared with Diane and if he's doing now. So when you get to that place of, some people call it reinventing yourself. Some people call it, you know, trying to figure out that next phase in your life. It's honestly, and it's having someone to work with. It's an accountability. I've done it every time I've had to make the transition, except the first one, when I crashed and burned, leaving LaFace. I had a life coach. I had someone to work with me. I had an accountability partner to really help me. Because again, you can't see yourself when you're in the picture frame. So in that transition, one, you have to recognize and give yourself permission to get help. Give yourself permission to get help. The second is stop saying, I don't know. Stop saying, I don't know. When you hit that place, stop saying, I don't know. Stop saying, I don't know what I want to do next. I don't know it, because you do. Tip, who's on here, can totally, Tina, who's on here, who are clients of mine. When you stop saying, I don't know, and just focus on what you do know, that's when you begin to move forward. And every time my clients, myself, stop saying, I know, then it allows us to focus on the few things that we do know. And that's how you start moving forward in determining what you want to do next.
Well, Sheri, I absolutely love how you balance inspiration and storytelling and then drill down into really practical, usable tips for folks. Really fantastic. And also thank you for your generosity in being here with us today and putting so much energy and love into this. We certainly felt it. And thank you to everyone that joined today. We will, as always, follow up with an email to everyone that registered, to where you'll have a link to this video so you can watch Sheri as many times as you want and hear something new probably each time. We will share the slides as well. We'll share the enrollment information and we'll go from there. I do want to thank Republic Bank Foundation for helping us in this journey. They are one of our Leadership Louisville partners and sponsors. And I also want to wish everyone a wonderful rest of the week, and please do take care. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you again next time.